Welcome, listeners. I'm so excited to have Keivan Stassun today with us. He's the founding director of the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation in Vanderbilt School of Engineering, and they focus on advancing science and engineering through the engagement and workforce development of autistic individuals and those with other forms of neurodiversity, and has awarded more PhDs to autistic students and engineers than any other program. He's also serving on the National Science Board, is a MacArthur Fellow, and comes to us with a rich academic background. Keivan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to dig in. Can you tell us the backstory on how you started the Center for Autism and Innovation at Vanderbilt?
Yeah, happy to. And just to an important correction on the pronunciation, that's the Frist Center, not
Oh, it
First. I
is
know it
Frist.
looks
I
like
thought it
that.
was a
Yeah,
misspelling. Thanks
yeah,
for calling.
yeah. No, the Frist Family Foundation very generously endowed the center in 2018, and we've been going ever since. But the backstory, I would say, really begins with my personal experience as an astrophysicist, who's also the dad of an autistic son. He's 18 now, but when he was diagnosed at 4 years old, started the journey that so many families go through. First, just learning about autism and what it meant, and all the ways that we could best support our son in those early years. But it wasn't too long before he was no longer a little kid. He was a middle schooler and getting onto high school, and and I hear this all the time from families now that right around then you really start to, as a parent, you start to wonder, well, what's next? What happens when this autistic child becomes an autistic adult, which they all do, and what are the opportunities going to be? How is the world going to regard this person who has real support needs, but also has much to contribute? And so um, I started intentionally recruiting autistic students at Vanderbilt to join my astrophysics research lab. And two very important things happened. One is, um, which I expected, the first one is that I learned how to be a better manager of a neurodiverse team, how to help my team effectively communicate with them. And it really just made the team better all around. Learned how to be more precise in our communication, depending less innuendo or relying less on imprecise communication. Just made the team better. So that's the first thing that happened, and I expected that would happen. The second thing that happened that was by no means assured is that we, as a team, we made bigger and better scientific discoveries. One of my favorite stories, which was the subject of an interview by Anderson Cooper on 16 Minutes of years ago, is that of one of my autistic students who developed a completely novel way of exploring big data sets, which we deal with all the time in astrophysics. And with the tool that he invented, my team ended up making a groundbreaking discovery. I don't mind saying, and giving credit to the students. That was published in the journal Nature. You may know that's the top scientific journal in the world. It was a new way of measuring the sizes and ages of stars just based on how their light flickers. Unexpected discovery. It was a big discovery. And I'm absolutely convinced that discoveries like that will be possible because the team invited and included and supported full diversity of human.
Yeah. That's such a great story. I'm so glad Anderson Cooper was able to feature it and spread it with folks. It's something to be really proud of. Yeah, I've seen the benefits of neurodiverse teams myself, and also a mom of a kiddo with autism. So I feel your parenting journey. I'm at the very beginning. So I hope the world has more centers like this, so that she can participate equitably and have opportunities. But yeah, by using more clear language, we're more clear with our communication, by providing an open environment for participation, we get better innovation, new ideas. So it all seems like really common sense.
Mm.
But as you know, there's not as much investment in this as we would like to think there is. What are some of the barriers you're seeing for centers like this or people that want to help the neurodivergent community or autistic community as a whole? Like, what are some of the barriers right now?
Maybe I'll flip. I understand what you mean by barriers. Maybe I'll flip that and just say, the way that we look at it is where are the wide open opportunities? Just because, you know, the, there are areas where there has been less investment, and so those are wide open opportunities. Um, you know, in, you know, in a word, adulthood. Um, my son, your daughter, I'm sure, you know, benefit in those early years tremendously from decades of research and investment in early intervention. Um, you know, I'm grateful that when my son was in elementary school, we could say to the teachers, this is an autistic child. And the teachers had enough understanding um, to just even know how to begin the conversation. That was not true 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Um, and the fact that it's true now or truer now rep represents, yeah, decades of investment, research, and other investments for supporting young children with autism. But where there has been so much less investment is in autistic people who are over 18 years old. um, and of course, people spend the majority of their lives in adulthood. Um, how we come to feel included, integrated, useful, that our lives have meaning, right? So much of that begins to take shape in early adulthood and into adult lives. And so, that's just where the biggest opportunities are. And so the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation, our entire mission is to develop technologies and to transform workplaces for autistic youths, inspired by diversity and neurodiversity. By neurodiversity, I mean a recognition of both the support needs and the strengths that are there to be met. And so we're working on helping educators be better informed, especially in higher education, where compared to K through 12 schools, professors like me and colleges and universities, generally receive no training or an understanding of how to support autistic college students. And that can be such an important topic, meaningful employment. But then also working with companies, working with employers and individuals around new ways of recruiting people, recognizing talent, and supporting talent.
Yeah, I like how you explain that there's kind of two sides of it. Like, what are the ways to meet the unique needs of the autistic community, but also the unique strengths that they bring? So we're not forcing kind of neurotypicalness on a community, that we're getting the full benefits of their diversity, rather than kind of conforming. And so I love that. Kayvon, would you mind kind of explaining, like, if I love this whole idea of like there's a lot of support in the earlier years, but not in the later years, right? And adulthood's a huge part of someone's life. So I wonder, like, as kids approach adulthood, as they enter university, like yours, as they enter the workforce or look for workforce opportunities, what are the accommodations that we should be thinking about, or what are the ways to meet their unique needs. And then also like what do you see as like the unique capabilities they're bringing that make, because to me it's kind of like a math equation, like you put the inputs and you get the outputs. Like you need to do the things to make the conditions right to get the outputs of the benefits of diversity.
Yeah. Um, so, I mean, I think it's important to just acknowledge, just very in a very clear-eyed way that, right, autism is a spectrum. It is a broad spectrum. Um, and so there's a very wide range uh, of support needs. You know, and sometimes the support needs and the strengths kind of um, go together in surprising and counterintuitive ways. Um, I'll use my own son as one example. My son, very intelligent, um, um, and um, will probably for the rest of his life require a relatively high level of sort of wraparound supports. I'll say more about that. But so there's one example of sort of high intelligence and needing relatively high level supports. Um, Another example is one of the PhD students currently that we have at Vanderbilt, who, when he finishes his PhD in a year or two, he will, to our knowledge, become the world's first non-verbal autistic PhD neuroscientist. Okay, so again, I mean, sort of the support needs can range in type and degree, and the ways that those support needs go along with strengths and abilities can be very they can go together and support each other. But so in thinking about workplace accommodations and supports, depending on the individual, we've seen some low-hanging fruit, low-cost ways of supporting people that all employees oftentimes welcome, that can make a big difference. The ability to use noise-canceling headphones, having quiet spaces to decompress and manage stress. Um, um, Tip sheets for employees, for all employees to just have sort of little reminders around things like precision in workplace communication, um, so that everybody benefits from just clearer communication and clearer understanding, but in particular, autistic individuals um, aren't trying to read between the lines when if they're just told very directly and clearly what needs to be done, they can do it. They can do it with a high level of performance. So that's sort of one sort of set of examples of accommodations or supports that have allowed some big companies, Microsoft, other big companies to implement some of these things and to be able to hire large numbers. Um, but uh, but as I said, some folks just will require different or more or a higher degree of skills. And so, for example, my own son is starting to work at a company here in Nashville called the Precisionists Incorporated, TPI. TPI is a really interesting business model. They have locations now in Wilmington, Delaware, and Philadelphia, and Nashville, and Phoenix, and Cleveland, and they're moving into a number of other cities. TPI hires autistic adults to perform business services or contracted work for other companies. They have clients, big corporate clients who outsource to TPI, all kinds of back office kinds of work, accounting, legal document review, all kinds of things. But TPI hires autistic individuals into their own offices where they can provide all of the supports that may be needed on-site job coaches, mental wellness, um, project managers who kind of help break down tasks for individuals who may have higher executive functions needs. And I use that example with my own son, who, is very intelligent and who will perform at a very, very high level if he's afforded the opportunity for work in a setting like that. So, everything from, as I said, relatively simple, straightforward, but highly effective supports to entirely different business models that 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 perform at a high level and can offer high level service offerings to corporate clients, but do it in a way where they're leveraging a neurodiverse workforce and providing higher levels of
Yeah.
and the kinds of benefits that companies see, whether they're hiring autistic individuals directly or they're working with companies like TPI to engage that population more indirectly, is various metrics that we track are things like employee loyalty. This is a workforce that tends to be highly loyal. So less turnover, which represents a big cost savings. Um, a high quality high quality of performance when it comes to detail oriented. So less error performing various kinds of tasks, which means less redundancy, which saves on costs. So, in a number of ways, companies are seeing that there's the potential just for higher performance, better product, but have to engage this workforce in.
I like the TPI model because it kind of, I think about myself as a small business, for example, or businesses that are growing that may not have access to the tools that the Microsofts of the world have, right? Like it shouldn't be super complicated. It shouldn't require a ton of investment to make this work, but there's a lot of nuance to it and having to figure that out for one
Right.
person versus contracting with somebody that's already got that figured out that you're going to pay a premium for, but one that you can afford or that makes sense for your business. I just love that. And then they have a community that's filled with support probably in that office space too.
Mhm.
So I'm not the only one, right? I can do
And
this
the
work.
quality of the work product makes it so that the that there's a value proposition there
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
for you to
Like you
engage with
said,
them.
less errors, like more intelligence, new ways of thinking. Like these are all things that are keeping business leaders up at night. But I think what holds them back because they think I'd have to change all my management policies or I'd have to, think about this person all the time to make it successful. And you and I know it's not that complicated, but in people's minds, I think sometimes they build it up to be, especially if it's the first time or they think it's the first time. It probably isn't.
Yeah. Well, and also recognizing that, people are also compassionate and, they I think are understandably um concerned oftentimes, and I hear this from business leaders who say, I hate to bring somebody into the organization and fail at
Mhm.
supporting them,
Yep.
and now I've maybe done harm. So, you know, people want to do it right.
Yeah, they don't want to mess up, especially with something as important and sensitive as this, one's mental health or well-being, the team's, feelings around it. You want it to be a positive experience. You want to get it right. But you and I know, and people are going to mess up, and that's okay. It's how you handle and repair those mess up moments as learning opportunities too. But not everyone knows what we know. I find that most times when I run into folks that have an autistic person in their family, especially as a caregiver like us, you just know all the things because of our lived experience every day,
Right.
right? Everyone's different, and there's a huge spectrum, as you said. But I can dial in on it pretty well now when I meet somebody. It's like, oh, I feel like there might be more going on there, and I don't want to label anybody. I would never say that to their face, but it's like, I might flex my approach a little bit and just stick to the facts or, not have a lot of ambiguity or adjust to their sensory needs. Like I'm trying to flex in the moment. So these things, they're just little nudges or little pivots. I haven't found it requires a ton of work on my part, but like you said, those little modifications provide an environment where you can leverage these amazing natural strengths too. And to me, it's worth it. It's clearly that investment is worth it. Being curious, not judgmental, just being open to
Mm,
new ways of thinking and people processing in different ways. At my right now, where my daughter is, she's starting to develop verbal capabilities. She's four and a
mm,
half.
mhm,
And it's just really interesting to think about the world for her because so many 40% of autistic people are nonverbal. So I've been prepared for that. And it's nice to hear that story about your PhD candidate because it is doable. And so I just love that. But what I've seen is what she might struggle with verbally, she makes up for in nonverbal ways too.
mhm,
And so it's
mhm.
just a different way of communicating, but not a way we're used to. So
Right.
some of this is a mind shift thing. Some of this is having, academic resources like yourself, having the TPIs of the world, standing up for autistic folks and providing this
Yeah.
amazing community of resources. So really proud of the work you're doing and thankful for it. Kayvon, are there, other things we haven't talked about today that you wanted to make sure to talk about, or any other tips you wanted to leave our listeners with?
Oh gosh. I mean, you can decide whether you want to include this at the end or not. But I would be remiss if I couldn't just acknowledge that this is a really challenging time for those of us who are working in any area that might be regarded as related to accessibility, which this work very much is. I mean, I say that proudly. Um, we are, and I think of the work that we're doing as I'm a patriotic American. I think about how we're tapping into our the best and brightest of our very own, to support American economic competitiveness, scientific and technological competitiveness, and you know, um, recognizing talent in all of its forms. Um, I'm being very frank with you here. That for me, that work is among many other reasons. It is also patriotically motivated, and it is a hard pill to swallow right now to have that very motivation crash up against a set of perceptions and attitudes that are literally taking away the funding that we need to do this work and disparaging it. But so
And
I know a
totally
lot of us are dealing with
unacceptable,
that.
just unacceptable behavior that's happening right now, Kayvon. I totally agree with you. The funding stuff is real for organizations like yours, and for a lot of my corporate clients, they're very afraid to even talk about these things, even neurodiversity, because it has diversity and it has been thrown into the crosshairs. So I've done this work for 10 years and I've never seen it so fraught. But I'm thankful for the organizations that are speaking truth to power right now. And I'm hopeful that your organization will continue to have funding by brave people that know this is the right thing to do and we can weather the storm. We have to. One in 36 births. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what are we going to
Yeah,
do? Right? We're going to
yeah,
need
yeah.
folks. We're going to have to integrate as a society. This is a solvable problem too, as your institute, as your community has done. So thankful for your work. I appreciate your tenacity and clearly your passion for this subject. And as somebody that hopes to be the beneficiary of all the great good that you're doing now, I know my daughter will definitely have more opportunities in the future because of work like those that are doing it like you right now.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Kayvon. Thanks for being on the show.
Okay, take care.